Hi guys, how you doing? Jimmy now wants to talk about charity work and service. So what do we do when the world goes dark? What do we do when we want to help? He says so many people right now have no idea what service is. They have no idea what helping humanity is. This came off the back of it. He woke me up through the middle of the night a couple of nights ago, and he was on about service and service and service. And I actually said to Jimmy, I said, I'm going to struggle because you obviously did a lot of charity work and a lot of service, but there was also a lot of darkness in that. I said, how can I sit there and say, Jimmy says do service? When, you know, because all that's going to happen is I'm going to get at least one warrior that comes in that's going to say, actually Claire, yeah, he did, but he did this as well, and that's going to shoot me down in flames. And he explained it this morning. He did charity work in his life. Whether you love him or not hate him, he did charity work. He said he did ego-placed charity work where he wanted the cameras there. He says there's a big difference. He said there was actually many threads to why he did the charity work. There was the access, of course, but there was also the ego and the importance and being able to lord it into places, which comes back into part one when we're talking about how he viewed himself as a person. And he's talking about when we have difficulties as a species like we did in 2020 and people started doing voluntary work for certain things, people going back into certain establishments to work and putting it on their social media. And he says what's gone wrong is that as a species, him included, we've lost that heart-centered charity work, that heart-centeredness of service. We now go on and tell everybody that we're doing charity work. We go on and tell everybody that we're so special and unique and blah, like he did. In actual fact, those are the ones to avoid. He said it's the ones that are quietly, diligently going in and doing voluntary work from their heart. They're not blasting it all over social media. He said famous people as well that are taking camera crews in and filming what they're doing. He said very few of them are heart-centered. Very few of them are heart-centered. It's not heart-centered stuff that they're doing. Heart-centered service. And this was something me and Jimmy were discussing about. Say this situation we had, it blew up in 2012, was it 2011? And many of us, including me, started to get angry and throw stuff and share stuff on social media and cause uproar, as we do. And he was saying that people then do it with other things that have happened since. You'll go on social media, you'll start spreading dark stuff in the view of I'm sharing this because this is a global truth. And he says all that does is cause more fear and pain. Bear with me now. I know you're saying, well, no wonder he's going to say that because he doesn't want the underbelly coming up. He does want the underbelly coming up, and believe you me, right? Watch. Because when you get over there, it's not just about sitting on a cloud. There's work to be done. And he is one of the souls, and this may trigger, that is coming back to help. And even being the caricature of Jimmy was actually part of the big revelation. Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to do it. And yes, he was the abuser, but that was part of it as well. No, probably on a human level did he think I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this because then I'm going to enlighten humanity. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. But we needed the experience and he provided it. Okay? So, so what is service? And I asked him actually, I said, what would you say service is? Voluntary, is charity work, is going in for the goodness of it. He said, and so many people do charity work, including himself, from ego or from their own wounding because they want to feel special. And it was the same with him. He said it wasn't all bad. He did bad things, but there were fragments of him that wanted to be loved, that wanted to be adored, that wanted to control, that wanted to manipulate, that wanted to. And it's the same with us humans. The difference is that many people don't have camera crews with them. He did. So it's about spreading positivity on social media, not spreading further darkness. I'm going to share this because I'm triggered. I actually nearly did it this week, and he actually sat with me and he went, I got to a chapter, what was it? Your porter hurt me, and it was going into 2 hospitals where he was, and one was the one that's the Stoke one, and then the next one was the Yorkshire Hospital. Can't name hospital names for various government stuff because of my own history of working there, etc. So it is what it is. I have to try my best to get the stuff across. I was reading the Stoke stuff and I was upset, of course. And then I went onto the Yorkshire Hospital and I got so triggered. I was getting my camera, I was taking pictures, and I'm going to post this up. And I'm going to post it on my business one. And I'm going to post it on my personal one. I'm going to just blast it on my old ones. And he actually said that's the problem. When we see something like the JS situation, the Jimmy situation, it brings up so much of our own unhealed trauma. And he actually stops me and says, is this about what I did at those hospitals? Or is this about your own issue with that hospital? And I went, this is about my own issue with the hospital. And many of us are doing that. It's actually got nothing to do with the situation. It's our own unhealed stuff that comes up. And that is also part of his soul contract, the unhealed stuff that comes up. Because that was part of bringing up what needed to come up, if that makes sense. So, when we see something like that, try not to go into what I was going to do, what we all do a lot of the time, to try and spread positivity, because healing, that is what helps. What do you want to see? Want to say anything about charity work or service? Do it. The world needs more of it. The world needs more servers. There's such a lack of energy around service at the minute. There's so much ego. If you want to change your world, it starts with us. It starts with you. Throwing more darkness out just brings more darkness into you. And it just spreads more darkness. It's like he's saying it's just shit throwing. It's just shit throwing all the people are just shit throwing all the time. Rather than sitting down and thinking, right, what can I do with this? How can I become a better person from reading this book? Right? How can I become a better person for being on the earth as this situation unfolds? No. It's just shit throwing, shit spreading, and it's not helping, it's making it worse. And he's saying anyone that actually wants to help the planet, anyone that wants to not save the planet, he's not saying save the planet because he hates the word save, but I hate the one word save the planet. No, that's ignorance. It's not about saving the planet, it's about serving the planet. Anyone that wants to do that looks at these dark stories in our world and then they change their life accordingly. So you become a better parent, a better citizen, a better work colleague, a better medical person, a better writer, a better journalist, a better influencer, a better vlogger, a better blogger, a better person. And you don't, because he says when we throw, and this isn't him saying, I don't want you to throw money, because he can take it and he understands why people do it. But actually when you're just throwing shit and shit spreading, it's not just going to him, it's going everywhere. And he's saying it's going into the windows. If you think of this, he's showing me a machine. I don't know if this is a farming machine. He's showing me, I don't know what it's called, but he's showing me a machine that, muck spreader is called. It says it's a muck spreader. He's showing me a muck spreading machine, and I think apparently it goes like that and it sprays muck, right? And what this muck spreader is, he's saying we are all this muck spreader at the minute. We're all shit. You go on TikTok and it's all this truth bombing and all that. And I'm guilty of it. And you just throwing this muck out, muck's the Yorkshire thing, and you just muck spreading. And he said, if you think about, there's lots of windows there that are waiting to be clear, they're waiting to be opened. And what you're doing when you muck spread it and it's going out, it's blocking the windows out. So say you've got a muck spreader in the middle of a field and you've got houses that are dark houses, right? And you've got light workers around the edge of the field that are waiting to come in to highlight the darkness in the houses, yeah? And all of a sudden, I can't use a different word, I can't use that, I can't use that word. Sorry, this is just one of some of the, because he did have a bit of a sense of humour. He's saying, and all of a sudden you've got some Billy Big Bollocks that wants to, sorry, were you channeling this is what happens, you've got some big, anyway, you got some, anyway, comes in and they turn the shit spreading machine on. all the houses that these light workers here, and these light workers aren't just people that post things on internet, these light workers actually go into these areas to highlight it. They can't see the houses because of the muck spreaders. That one person that presses the muck spread, I'm gonna come here and shit. Every house is covered. The people that are meant to come in to actually bring this stuff up go, where do we start? It stinks. We can't even get, this is it. I love this analogy. Oh, we can't get near it. It stinks. It stinks of shit. It stinks. I can't get near it. Where do we start? It's too much. I can't do it. It's too much. That's how you derail humanity. So when we're out on the social media, we're just spreading all this, you know, being the big what was it? What did you use? Billy Big Bollocks. Billy Big Bollocks, and we're just sharing all this stuff. We're actually causing more problems. We're actually causing more problems. So it's about being a good citizen. It's about not spreading more of it, trying to be a good citizen, serving quietly and diligently, and just, he said, you know, we, as he knows, always going about frequency, and he says, you're right, the more that you can focus on yourself, the more you increase your frequency. Think about him, he says, take it back into his life, he just fed the dark for the dark, for the dark, for the dark, for the dark. He says, you all are feeding the light, feeding the light, feeding the light, feeding the light. So as you're building more light into yourself, you actually help to lift the frequency of the planet. And then you actually start to affect the people around you in a positive way. And that's how you do it. You don't do it by sitting online going, I'm going to share that. And I don't care if I get blocked. And I don't care if my social media gets locked down. And I'll tell you what, if my social media gets locked down, I'm going to go on a truth bomber site. No, you're actually part of the problem and you're not part of the solution. Oh, this could cause trigger. Sense of humour with Jimmy. I felt I was right to explain something there because we had a bit of sense of humour come in, and I think we had a bit of a sense of humour came in at the end of part 1 where all of a sudden I just went woo, and it was just, I don't know what happened. I don't know what, nothing touched me, nothing happened, it was just weird. When Jimmy came through, he was a very comical character, whether you loved him or hated him, and he was very still and very quiet and very, very different. And now and again he'd come out in a little bit of a jokey energy, and then he'd stop. And I was like, oh my God. And what it was, you know, when somebody dies and maybe a few days or weeks, and all of a sudden you maybe have a laugh with your work colleague, and then all of a sudden you remember somebody's died, and it's like, I can't laugh because somebody's died. And it was that kind of energy. It was like, he came in, he had a little bit of a joke, and it was like, I actually can't laugh because of that lifetime I had. So, does that make sense? It was very much like that energy of when someone's died, you may forget for a minute, you have a laugh with someone, then all of a sudden it hits you, it's like, oh, I can't laugh because actually, what right do I have to laugh? So it's actually been nice to actually get that energy going again, because actually laughter is a great medicine, laughter is a great medicine, fun is a great medicine. He said not at somebody else's expense though, which he used to do, and he said that was one of his darkest traits, was laughter at other people's expense. He said he could be quite a bully, quite a bully. He said, but we were like that as a family. He said, we're a family of intimidators. But fun, genuine, belly laughing, he's saying, belly laughing. Not at somebody that you picked on or intimidated, but you've just watched something funny, or someone just told a really funny, happy joke. He says that's the thing as well. Humour can actually send you warped. Oh, yeah. Humour can actually warp you if it's the wrong type of humour. Dirty humour, dark humour. Be careful of the humour that we watch, okay? Be careful also of darkness. This is something that he said to me. He said, it was in one of my notes. Why did we need the experience of Jimmy? And he said in the notes that I was writing down was that we as people were obsessed and attracted to the dark. And I was like, what do you mean, Jimmy? And he says, you, not just me, everyone, you species, humans, love the dark. You love watching dark things. People watch soap operas that are incredibly dark. We watch dark films. We sometimes read dark books, me included. I'm a culprit. We'll sometimes tell a dark joke. We'll dive into something like this, like we'll just make it even more darker. And he says, we all, him, we all were dark. And that is why as a species we've actually welcomed in a lot of darkness. Ah, I didn't put a thingy in it, did I? Bloody hell. There was a piece in here that somebody had said at the end of this book about we created Jimmy and the entertainment industry at the time that created him. The dirty humour, the salacious humour, the freak show humour, the Punch and Judy, he's calling it the Punch and Judy humour, where everybody just, you've seen, we've all done it. Just Punch and Judy, people sit there belly laughing at Punch and Judy. I remember I used to go out with a lad, it was just before I met Gary, and he'd just laugh at the weirdest of things. And I remember thinking, we know these people that just laugh, smutty joke, and it's just, we created him. So he said to me, he said, right, he said, you're watching The Crown tonight. He says, dark. I'm not gonna go too far with that. Dark. Not because of what they're saying about the family, but because of what's in the family. I can't go any further. And I was like, it's only Crown, don't be daft. He said, watch. We watched The Crown, and honestly, I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna vomit. It was awful. Got nothing to do with the production, got nothing to do with anything. Got a lot to do with the energies of the people mentioned, the real encumbrance. And I was like, God, you're so right. He says, so we need to be more mindful of what we're eating. Are we eating dark foods? Are we watching soap operas, gossip, trivialness? Are we listening to dark music? Are we reading dark books? Are we reading books that inspire us like this? Or novels? Or you might say, well, Claire, you've just spent the week reading this. The reason why you pick the dark up is to learn about it. You don't pick the dark up because you want the freak show. You pick the dark up because you want to learn about it. Okay, does that make sense? And that's why you pick the dark up. So watching what we're watching what we're associating with, watching what we're eating, watching what we're reading, watching what we're playing in, watching who our families are playing in, watching who our children are playing in. I remember knowing somebody that actually said this. And she said she judged her children's friends by if their mummies liked wine. Oh dear. If their mummies liked wine, her little puppet could be friends with the children. That's me, not Jimmy Senior's witnessed that. And I remember at the time thinking, oh God, we are what we play in. If you're reading dark stuff, if you're watching dark stuff, if you're talking about dark stuff, if you're eating dark stuff, and this isn't something we can rectify overnight, this is going to take lifetime and years to. And this week I've tried to check myself when I may have been going to get a little bit gossipy, and also as well how we talk to ourselves. You're fat, God, I'm ugly. This was an issue in his life apparently, that when he couldn't look in the mirror. I don't know if anyone, I don't want people to start commenting in the comments about stuff like this, but there's something about not having mirrors in his flats. I don't think he had a mirror. He had an issue. There's an issue with him with vampire energy, which is another video entirely. That energy of vampire, the energy that comes in as the vampiric energy, is actually very much like the Dracula thing. He didn't have mirrors. He couldn't look in a mirror. Oh, this is something coming in. He couldn't look in a mirror. And it's almost like he's showing me somebody going, there you go. It was almost like I can't look in the mirror. And that again, so there are energies out there that are energetic vampires. And to go to some extent like this, like he did, where they really struggle to look in a mirror. This is something to check within ourselves. If you struggle to look into a mirror, this could be a trigger. And this isn't saying you're an abuser. He's saying people that struggle to look into mirrors are actually energetic vampires. If you find yourself looking at a mirror like that, oh, I'm fat, I'm ugly, actually there's an issue that needs healing there, and that's something we all need to face. Oh, I'm enjoying this actually. If we struggle, there is actually an energetic vampiric energy. So it's not got fangs, but it's showing me a certain entity that actually can, or a certain frequency. He's bringing in Bram Stoker. Oh, that'll be one to channel. I'll do Bram Stoker as well at some point. Bram Stoker was able to see these energies within people, these frequencies. He was aware of energies. Bram Stoker's coming in now. He was able to see, you see how that's another thing. I've just read Dracula for the first time in my life. I've just read Dracula. I read it over Halloween, believe it or not. And he's saying that Bram Stoker could sense these energies. They're not necessarily entities, it's a frequency, it's an energy that comes into people that makes them vampiritic and makes you an energy vampire. He's seen a lot of people, when they saw Jimmy, was like, oh, when they saw Jimmy, but actually felt quite low after seeing Jimmy. Because he... And he's saying he aged quite quickly towards him because he started to lose his fix. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to upset people, but you understand what I mean. God, Jimmy. So, looking in a mirror, get looking in a mirror. Get looking at, I love it, how we speak to ourselves, how we speak to each other. She's that. There may be a dark person. Can you actually look at this person and go, the divine in me sees the divine in you? Not actually him. Well, actually, yes, him. Let's get it out of the closet. The divine in me sees the divine in you. He actually shared a scenario with me before I came on camera where he was as a hospital porter and he was pushing a little lad to theatre. And this little boy turned round to him and he said he had the purest of frequency in his eyes. And he looked round to Jimmy to thank him, he said, and actually the essence of this little boy was beautiful. And he looked round at Jimmy and he says, thank you, sir. It was around about 1960s time, maybe the 1950s, 1960s. And Jimmy says, when this little boy looked at him, he said it was just pure love, and it actually derailed him for quite some time afterwards. And he says this little boy, the divine in him saw the divine in Jimmy, and he never abused him, didn't do anything to him. And he said there were other moments like that when it was actually an act of pure love, where he was humbled. It wasn't all darkness. It wasn't all darkness. And he said that's really important because there's actually so many moments of laughter and moments that he was actually helping. It wasn't all dark. And often we look at these situations in our world and say it's all dark. And he says that's one of the reasons why he kind of chose me to do this video, because I am able to do that, because I have been through a lot of dark. I have been abused, etc. So I am able to go into the divine in me sees the divine in you. And maybe that's something about how do we stop, oh God, that could be a trigger one. Being able to tap into that love source, the divine in me sees the divine in you, and that's another way how we're going to eradicate abuse on this planet, is going into that energy of the divine in me sees the divine in you. And the more that we believe in that and the more that we pulsate that out into the world, the more that we can heal this and release it and taking away judgment. Right, I'm going to start episode, I don't know what episode, what is this, episode 3? I don't know. Anyway, see you in the next one. See you later, bye.